Hello, this is Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer.
Welcome home. Soar into tower. We are ready for takeoff.
Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Hey, it's Amy from DVC Clubhouse.
Hey Clubbers, it's Scott from DVC Clubhouse.
Hey, it's Kathleen from DVC Clubhouse.
Welcome aboard. It's Phil from DVC Clubhouse.
Hey, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Debrief Podcast brought to you by DVC Clubhouse. This is Amy, and I'm joined by Phil, Kathleen, and Scott. Hey, guys.
Hey, guys.
Hi guys.
Welcome aboard, guys.
So here on the Debrief Podcast and the DVC Clubhouse, we like to say that, or at least I do, I know Kathleen says it too, that our favorite resorts are the ones that we're currently staying at. And, you know, I said it on last week's episode when Kathleen said that about, you know, being at Animal Kingdom Lodge, that, you know, for her, that when whatever resort she's currently at is her favorite one. That prompted a conversation afterwards.
And by afterwards, we mean 47 seconds ago, because we're back to backing it again tonight.
Right. And we didn't really know what we were going to talk about. We thought we were going to do a this or that episode, but then Scott said something, and I was like, "Oh, we just got to hit record and talk about this." On the
I don't know if he'll
podcast.
actually be able to bring himself to repeat it. We'll see.
I said what I said just in the confidence, like the privacy of the podcast members here, because now I'm going to have to talk about it publicly with what I just said.
You're correct. So you can go ahead
It's
and
going to be
start this
tough,
off.
buddy, but I'm here to well, put it this way. I'm here to support you because you are my friend. I am not here to support your statement.
Well, I may need all the support I can get after this.
No,
I really
you
will.
can't help how you feel.
I have been an avid, I guess, critic. Thank you, of the Riviera. And we had all mentioned that the resort that, you know, we currently would stay at is always our favorite resort. We went to the Riviera the other day to do the DVC presentation, just to get the DVC bag. And I made a comment that I said, as much as I, you know, talk about that resort maybe in a negative way, that it really called to me that day that we were there. And of course, every fellow member of my podcast group here just immediately was shocked.
Well, let me back up. So after the presentation, we were leaving and we were walking down the hall, and I just saw his face. And I'm like, "Oh, you ready to buy points here?" And you're like, "I don't know what it just did to me."
I think it was just the smell. I don't know if it was just like they do that on purpose to try to, like, you know, persuade you to buy points. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, it is a beautiful resort. It has its problems, like any other resort. People could list positives and negatives. But all we did is walk down the hall. We were in a grand villa for the presentation. And I just said, damn, this is a nice
Well, first of all,
place.
you were in a grand villa, so let's just make sure we're setting this stage appropriately. You were in the nicest of the rooms they have to offer there.
To be fair, if I were in a grand villa at Old Key West, I would still feel the same way about Old Key West.
That's
That
how I
is
feel
not
about
true.
Riviera.
Well,
That is not true.
Yes, Amy. Uh-huh.
yeah, you know what I'm thinking, but I'm not going
Yep.
to say it.
I just want to make one statement to follow up something you said. And you said it is a beautiful resort. And my gut reaction was, it is an acceptable resort with absolutely beautiful rooms. One thing I will never take away from that resort or that property is how large and how beautiful the rooms themselves are. You will never hear me badmouth that part of Riviera.
I guess we need to ask ourselves, what are we bad-mouthing? about Riviera? What are the things
I
that
know
we
what
don't
I'm
like?
bad mouthing.
Oh, where do I start?
Maybe not so much the physical aspects of it, but I know we're going to say point charts and things like that. But I just want to hear what everybody says. Like, what are the negatives?
Food options.
Go ahead. Keep, like,
All
fair
right,
enough.
let's take them one at a time. So, food options.
They have
Go ahead.
Topolino's, which is a great breakfast option. It's probably one of
It's
my
an
favorite
expensive
breakfasts. It's
breakfast option.
expensive, but that's all they have for a restaurant. Dinner, you could barely get into. Maybe now you can get into it a little bit more than previous, but I don't think it's that good. I don't think it's as good as what everyone says it is.
The best restaurants at Riviera are next door.
I agree. I'll eat at Sebastian's before I eat at Topolino's for dinner.
But is that a bad thing? I mean, again, I'm going to be devil's advocate here, and I'm going to argue everybody's point. Is that a bad thing? We just talked about on the last episode, we went to Animal Kingdom, and we ate at Boma, which I know Animal Kingdom has far superior food choices than Riviera, multiple choices. But it's an expensive place to eat.
But it's good.
And we ate there because that was the resort that we were staying at. If I was staying at Riviera, I would want to make a reservation at Topolino's, and I would want to eat there. But like Phil just said, there are other choices too that maybe that's not what they intended, but it still is very convenient just to walk over to Sebastian's or Banana Cabana and have that meal.
Right, but just think about this. The best restaurants at your deluxe resort are at the moderate next door. Just put that in perspective. You have one arguably good but expensive restaurant at Riviera. But if you want to have more food or good food, you need to go to the moderate. And that, in my mind, is a knock on what is supposed to be a deluxe resort.
And everybody has what they like, what they look for in a resort. You know, I kind of compare it to what Grand Floridian has to offer. They have a lot more to offer in dining than the Riviera. And I mean, that's just a fact. That's not an opinion.
So
And-
and so does Animal. I mean, we just talked
Yeah.
about Animal Kingdom Lodge on the last episode, and the dining options abound at Animal Kingdom Lodge.
Right, and you're talking to a guy that's a poly owner that thinks the poly dining sucks as well. So I'm not just piling this only on Riviera.
I think that the issue for me with Topolino's is that it is in the category of like signature dining, but it is not in my top 5 of signature dining restaurants that I want to dine at. I would rather dine at California Grill, Narcoossee's, Citrico's, Jico. I would rather go to, like Sanaa than I would Topolino's, because while I think Topolino's is good, I think that the price tag for what they're serving is outrageous. And I just don't, if I'm going to be paying that much, I want to be so blown away by the food. And I have been underwhelmed. I have tried, and I've said to Kathleen several times, like, I'm not going to go again. And I've tried it again. And I've always had a meal that I've been like, well, it's good, but it is never memorable for me. I never walk away thinking, oh my gosh, that was the best meal that I've had at Disney, the way that I have it at other restaurants. And so, that combined with the fact that when you're staying there, you're not guaranteed to get a reservation there, which is frustrating because your only other table service options are a walk away at Caribbean Beach, and that's not a close walk. So like we can say like it's in the resort next door, but it would be a hike. And if it started raining, you would need to like hop in an Uber to get back to Riviera so that you wouldn't get wet on your way back. It's just not an option that is convenient to be, it's nice that it's there. And if you decide like, oh, I love Sebastian's, I want to walk over, it's nice to have the option. But it's not something that, I'm going to look at and say, oh, I'm going to stay at Riviera because I want to go to Sebastian's. That's
Yeah.
not going to happen. That's not why I would stay there. I mean, I think for me, one of the biggest other biggest drawbacks with like the dining situation is that they do not have a lounge indoors. That to me is a
too.
major drawback. And And people might say to me, well, Amy, you've always said that you love Old Key West and Gurgling Suitcase. And that is true. And that one is outdoors and they don't have an indoor lounge too. But I'm paying 10 points a night to stay there versus 25 for, for a studio at Riviera. So
Mhm.
I have said it before. I actually do like Riviera and I would stay there. But the reason why it has fallen down to the bottom of my list is because, and it really does come down, it's a singular issue for me, and it's the points chart. If Riviera cost fewer points for me to stay there, I would stay there more frequently. But since I can stay at Beach Club or Boardwalk or Boulder Ridge for fewer points than I can stay at Riviera, I'm always going to choose those over Riviera. That's just not a competition for me.
I want to go back to the dining real quick because I feel like I'm the defender of Riviera, which is really hard for me to do right now. But to kind of make a counterpoint to the whole Topolino situation, isn't it like that at a lot of other deluxe resorts too? I mean, really, when you think of Old Key West, what is your dining option at Old Key West? When you think of Saratoga, what is your dining option at Saratoga? There might be one sit-down restaurant there. I mean, that's kind of what we just said. That's why we're crapping on the dining, because there's only one dining option there.
But
Same thing with Old Key West. Same thing with Saratoga.
it's
But you
the
just
points.
compared it to two resorts that are grossly different in points that always have availability that you, at least one of
Well,
which you don't love either.
we were talking about dining. I know we're just getting into the points part of it, but strictly just talking about the dining options at a resort. You have your Animal Kingdoms and your Grand Floridians, which have multiple really good options. But when you think about the other deluxe resorts, you're really getting one, like we said, Topolino's is about it. Olivia's is it. Turf Club is it. Even if you go to Beach Club, I mean, what do you got? Cape May? And then you have to walk around to Boardwalk or over to another resort to get to.
There's a lot more options on the Yacht and Beach property than there is.
But you have to walk there, just like we said. If your best meal at Riviera is to walk over.
But you're
to,
you're forgetting Beaches and Cream and Martha's Vineyard. So Beach Club has 2 table service. They have Martha's Vineyard, plus they have Hurricane Hannah's and the Beach Club Marketplace.
And Yacht Club is the same building. It's not even close to comparing a walk to Caribbean Beach to go over to Yacht Club.
I still think a Riviera owner would argue that they have Primo Piatto and they have Bar Riva. Bar Riva comparison to Hurricane Hannah's and Primo Piatto compared to what's the quick service at Beach Club? Sorry, Marketplace?
Marketplace.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still think there would be an argument there to be made if I was pro Riviera. But there's just a lot of deluxe resorts out there that have crap for dining, in my opinion.
Well, here's the thing. I feel like the only apples to apples comparison really is Riviera, Old Key West, and Saratoga, because those are the only 3 DVC resorts that are not connected to an already existing deluxe resort that has deluxe resort amenities with like multiple restaurants, an indoor lounge, maybe an outdoor lounge. So the 3 standalone DVC resorts are Old Key West, Saratoga Springs, and Riviera. Old Key West and Saratoga Springs both have restaurants that if you walked up at any time, they would be able to seat you right then and there.
For a reason.
I think if you're going to have, I'm sorry?
For a reason. I'm saying that just as my opinion. I feel like there's a reason for that. They're not as popular.
Well, they aren't as popular, but I think that the benefit to having a restaurant that is not so wildly popular when it's the only one is that if you get there on arrival day and you just want to, you're waiting for your rooms to be ready, you're guaranteed to get a table. You're guaranteed to have like a decent meal that's not going to cost you, $300 for a family of 4. And that's open for lunch because Topolino's is not open for lunch.
And both of those locations are all but inaccessible to the average person.
Which locations?
You're talking about Old Key West. How many people are taking a Skyliner into Old Key West? How many people are just wandering or walking into Old Key West? It's completely separated. So I think that also plays into why Olivia's has a lot of open reservations, because you really need to be staying at Old Key West to even consider eating at Olivia's.
But I think that's my point, is that they put this, what they tried to make like this elevated dining experience that made the only table service restaurant at that resort one that you can't just like show up and, if it's pouring rain one day and you just decide, you're there for a week, you just decide we're not going to go to the parks, we don't want to deal with this. You can't just pop into a table service restaurant and get a table. These are, reservations that are hard to get at 60 days, let alone day of. And then their, Bar Riva is half outdoors. So you would need, it has a completely open front. You would need to go outside to get there. So, I mean,
Well, I would
and
say
look, it's the same thing with Old Key West, where you're far, you have to get there. But again, it will always come down for me to the points, because if I'm going to pay 10 points at Old Key West versus 25 points at Riviera, I'm just always going to choose Old Key West. And it's really not because I hate Riviera. It's because for me, points are the priority. I'm always going to prioritize more nights over, what, even when even if I was choosing for, a trip uh, between, let's say Polynesian and Old Key West, I would likely choose Old Key West unless I had something specifically that I wanted to do that would make me pick Polynesian. It's just from a points perspective, I think that Riviera is not offering the same number of amenities that other resorts of the same points caliber
Yes.
are
Yes.
offering.
Well, can I ask a question? Because I know a lot of times you travel, you're a solo traveler down to Disney quite a bit. Riviera has Tower Studios for 10 points. If there's a Tower Studio available compared to a studio at Old Key West, and they're the same amount of points, actually the Tower Studios might be even cheaper than the regular studios at Old Key West. Which one are you going to choose?
I mean, I prefer a real bed to a pull down bed. I do not think that the pull down beds are particularly comfortable, but I did choose a Tower Studio at Riviera not too long ago. Well, I guess it was a year ago, because it was available and it was a low points value. So I chose that over a different category. But overall, as a middle-aged solo traveler, like, I want a bed. I think the Disney beds are really comfortable. I want a real bed, not a pull-down bed.
Yeah, and when you're paying those amount of points, I'm gonna want amenities like Grand Floridian.
Now, I will say, just to play devil's advocate against my own self, when I stayed in the Duo Studio at Disneyland and I had that balcony, like, I would stay in that unit again, like a million times, because it gave me a balcony and because it had an awesome view. So if it depends on the resort, but I don't think that, I mean, maybe if I was choosing between Riviera and Old Key West, because I don't love that Old Key West has two full beds in the studio, like with no couch. I would have to think about the trip and decide which would make more sense for me, whether, but choosing between an Old Key West studio or a Riviera Tower studio.
I'm just going to go through some points comparisons here, just so we're comparing apples to apples, because again, I'm with Amy kind of from a different take. It's not about the cheapest studio, it's about the value for what I'm getting. All right, so just one set of dates. Let's call it September 1st through 30th. Animal Kingdom, from value to club level, 7, 10, 13, 18. Beach Club, 14. Bay Lake Tower, 13, 16, 18. Boulder Ridge, 13. Boardwalk, 19, 14. Copper Creek, 13. Old Key West, 9. Polynesian, 14, 19. Saratoga, 9, 11. Grand Floridian, 16, 16, 19, 19, 24. And that's right up to theme park view. Now you have Riviera at 14 and 17, which means Animal Kingdom, Beach Club, Bay Lake, Boulder Ridge, Boardwalk, Copper Creek, Old Key West, Polynesian, Saratoga, and most of Grand Floridian are the same or cheaper in points compared to Riviera.
Yeah, and that's why I will always stay at one of them over Riviera. They have more to offer. I don't feel like Riviera has the right to charge that many points for what they have.
Well, I'm not trying to argue for Riviera because everybody knows how I feel, but I don't think 14 points is that far off from what Phil just said about it. I know it might be like a little bit more than a couple of the resorts that he named, but I still think it's in the ballpark.
You could stay at Grand Floridian for 16 versus Riviera for 14. You could stay at Bay Lake for 13 or 16. You could stay at Animal Kingdom for anywhere between, let's just take the value out of it. We'll say it doesn't even count. Between 10 and 18 at club level, by the way. It's 10 and 13 for your standard and Savannah views. I just don't, and I've never from day one been able to understand their points charts. It just does not make sense in my head.
No.
I get it. I get it, but I think some people would say it has easy access to 2 parks if you like the Skyliner. There's some
If
good
you like
there's
the
some
Skyliner.
but there's some good things that people are going to say about it. I mean, that's about the only resort that you could stay at DVC that's going to give you the Skyliner at Hollywood Studios and Epcot. So I think there's a couple of good points that people could make about it, but I mean, I really don't think 14 is that bad. And again, you talk about the value studios being 7, 8, 9 points, something like that. I do love those Tower Studios. I'm not gonna
I
lie.
took those out of the equation just for science being science, just standard studio to standard studio.
How much is a tower studio in September at Riviera?
Let me look at their direct points charts because I've just got the standard studios up in front of me. Hold on.
Okay. While you look that up, there are things about Riviera that I really like. And you know what? In some ways, part of me feels annoyed that the points chart is so high because there are things about Riviera that I like that I would, I'm all about having different experiences every time I go to Disney and being able to make every trip look different. But Riviera has become one that I just automatically check off the list because of the points chart. But I do, I think that the resort has. I enjoy the lobby while small. I have sat in the lobby and kind of people watched. I think they have a great shop. I think that the coffee shop is among the better ones at any of the DVC resorts. I've only eaten at Primo Piatto twice, and it was fine. Like, people love it and people rave about it. I haven't had the same experience as the people who love it. So I can't say that that is something that is like really calling to me. And when I have gone to Bar Riva, like, I like Bar Riva. It's just, if it's hot, I don't want to be there. So
yeah.
that's part of my issue too, is like, when I go to a lounge, I want to be able to escape the heat and sit inside air conditioning.
I will say to that point, not to interrupt you, Amy, but what we didn't know, Topolino's is a lounge. I will say you can go up there at any time. They do have a bar and they have actual dedicated tables that make that a lounge. So you can go up there at any time and grab a seat up there.
I have done that, but it's more of like a bar in a restaurant. It's the same thing with California Grill. Like, I wouldn't call that like the lounge at California Grill. It's like you have to go and hope that there's a seat available. And, they do, and they have the rooftop area outside that you can bring your drink outside. But again, it's like, I don't want to be outside if it's really hot. Now, on a really nice night, I would like to sit out there, but it also gets crowded out there. So, it's hard to be able to go and just like claim a spot and feel comfortable because it gets crowded. But like Phil was saying, I not only would I never knock the rooms at Riviera, but I have sung the praises of the deluxe studios at Riviera ever since I stayed at them, because I think that they are the most smartly designed studios of any of the DVC resorts, because you can slide the coffee table underneath the main bed. And because it has a Murphy bed, like you're not navigating around a coffee table. And now, now the majority of them are all getting Murphy beds, but that was like one of the first resorts that had it. And so there weren't cushions on the floor. So even with both beds, the twin bed and the queen bed pulled out, you still have plenty of floor space to navigate around. And then, the bathroom situation is convenient for families. So, I stayed there with my girls and, they loved the room. I thought that the room was like a really great, smart design, which is why I feel disappointed that the points chart is as high as it is, because I would stay there more if I felt like I was paying the same amount of points as I would pay. I think that Riviera should be priced the same as Animal Kingdom Lodge.
Well, with that in mind, so the Riviera Tower, September 1st to 30th, is either 10 or 13 points, depending on the day of the week.
I thought it was 10.
So 10 to 13. So for the same amount of points, you could get a full-size studio at Animal Kingdom. Within 1 point, you could get Beach Club. You could get a Bay Lake Tower standard view for the same. You could get a Boulder Ridge for the same. You could get a Boardwalk standard view for the same. You could get a Copper Creek for the same. You could get an Old Key West for less. You could get a Poly for 1 point more. Now, this is a full studio compared to a tower. You could get a Saratoga standard and preferred. Those are all full-size studios you could get for the same or less points than a tower at Riviera.
Well, moving forward, everybody better get used to those points charts, because I think that's going to be the new norm. And where I'll talk about Lakeshore Lodge, and I'll bet you that they're going to be the same, if not worse.
Well, their
I don't
location
disagree.
warrants it.
They're what?
If it was the same points as Riviera, their location warrants those points, in my eyes.
Let's talk about the lobby, because in my mind, I think that's another slight hit. The only lobby I can think of that's worse is Bay Lake Tower, because it's not even really a lobby.
Old Key West is not great either.
All right, I'll give you Old Key West. It's a little underwhelming.
And Saratoga.
See, I don't think
also.
Saratoga's as bad, actually, compared to the other two, but I would probably rank Saratoga above them. But yeah, I'll give you Old Key West as well. But again, vastly different resorts, vastly different points.
When we went for that presentation, the lobby was packed because it was raining outside, and it was just absolutely chaos in that lobby because it was so jam-packed full of people.
Yeah,
it's small. I think it's underwhelming. I think I don't know if it lacks theming or the theming is just so good I fail to appreciate it. But to me, it looks like a Hyatt somewhere.
No, I think that it lacks theming. I think that they made it. They kind of modernized it instead of going for what like a classic like Riviera, hotels in the Riviera they're gauche, they have like ornate details, and the lobby at Riviera where the seating area is it's modern. Now it's pretty but it doesn't feel themed to me. I do think that it is pretty when you look and when you look out and they have the windows out to the back, and then on either side they have those like little like porch areas that are enclosed. I think that that's pretty. I mean, I probably wouldn't sit in there because it's typically really hot, so I would choose air conditioning. But I think that I feel like they got very close to it being like charming, or like having like a theme with having the boutique and then having the coffee shop. But, we were talking during Clubhouse Weekend about Vegas hotels that we've stayed at and that we like. And we were talking about Paris, and we were talking about that restaurant that's right on the ground level where you can sit outside. It's across the street from the Bellagio. Like that restaurant
I
is
ate
just
there
like
3
so
times
cute.
in January. It's adorable.
And it's so well themed, and I just love it there. And I'm like, I just feel like I wish that they had done Riviera just slightly better, because they could have given it more of that charm that you see in France and Epcot, and less of a kind of like sterile modern hotel feel.
Okay, what about the pool?
I'm not a fan of either of their pools.
Well, that's also where I feel like, the color scheme too that they went with, they could have made the umbrellas a little bit more ornate and a little bit more I don't know. If you look at pictures of like some of the most famous hotels in the French Riviera, they have like these pink, like florally umbrellas, and the colors of the shutters are not like orange and blue, which is literally the color of the Hampton Inn. And that is the color that they painted the shutters on Riviera. They needed to go with something that looked more, had more pastels infused, was a little bit more ornate. But I mean, I think that that's also where the level of the theming that we saw in the 90s. And I mean, even looking at like Riverside, going there for Clubhouse Weekend to see Yeehaw Bob, that lobby is like so detailed and so well themed. And then you step outside and you
Hmm.
see the mill, and like their little boardwalk area. It's just so well themed, and it feels real. And like that's the thing that I think Disney used to do so well, is like created something that felt real. And I don't feel transported to the Riviera when I go to the Riviera. I feel transported to the Pacific Northwest when I go to Wilderness Lodge.
I will say this, just to give a due amount of fairness. I don't think that lack of theming and lack of imagination is limited to Riviera. I think that is a modern day Disney issue. I think that comes down to a lot of their refurbs. I think it comes down to a lot of their park choices. And I think Riviera just suffered from the same sad consequences that a number of other things did. Disney either started stuffing the Incredibles in the contemporary or went with zero theming. There was no in between, and there was a lack of imagination company wide. So while I agree that is a problem with Riviera, I don't think it was specific to them. I think it's just where Disney was, or where Disney frankly is.
I agree with you, because before we stayed in the Grand Villa for Clubhouse Weekend, which I loved. I can't criticize the Grand Villa because I think it was beautiful, but I stayed in a studio, and from somebody who has been staying at the boardwalk since boardwalk opened, just the lack of character, like the way that they have removed the theming and the character from those rooms, it's those rooms do not at all communicate a theme at all, or or at least the theme that was the original concept of that resort. That is no longer infused in the theme of the rooms.
I agree.
I actually enjoy the touches, the little hidden touches at the Riviera, and like what Phil said about Bay Lake and how they did, or the Contemporary, and how they did like the in your face, like incredible stuff. I think there's so many like little hidden touches of Disney in that resort that we don't even know about. There's a lot of stories there that it seems like every time I go there, a cast member is pointing out something that I didn't know from before, whether it be hidden minis, or we've all seen the hidden Mickeys and the railings on your balcony, the characters that are by the elevator that are on the carpet, the mosaic. We didn't even talk about the mosaic that they have walking towards the Skyliner. I think that's such a beautiful part of that resort that no other resort really has anything like that. But I think that's just a really good, again, not in your face, but just a really well done decor for that resort. And the artwork. We don't talk about the artwork at Riviera. It's beautiful. And the fact that you can buy it, you can just go to the kiosk in the gift shop and buy it and take it home with you. I don't know that you can do that at any other resort. But
I think that there are individual elements in that resort that are very well done, but I think that the sum of its parts is not equal to what like the each of those little parts on its own.
Right. Their merchandise in that gift shop, though, I think they have the best resort specific merchandise. I mean, every time I go in there, there's something new. Riviera.
that's what we
I mean, they've had like 5 different lounge flies now, 5 different set of ears. Like it's,
that was one of the first things we said, because it used to be like Saratoga or Old Key West, I would always say had the best
yeah,
resort specific merchandise. And we walked into Riviera recently and forget about it. Riviera blows it all out the door.
Well, that's definitely by design, because
I'm sure.
I think that they're trying to sell it still. So
Yeah.
they're definitely going to be putting
There is that.
some, effort into making people go there and feel like, ooh, I love this Riviera bag. And oh, like it just kind of adds to like the draw of
Yeah.
that resort. And look, like we started this conversation because we were saying that our favorite resort is the one that we're currently staying at. And if I were at Riviera right now, I would be perfectly content. I would be,
Just like you were.
happy and I would have no complaints. But it really comes down to the before I get there, and it's the planning, and it's when I'm pulling up what's available on, dvcmember.com, that the points chart always turns me away from Riviera. And like I said, and I wish it did, like I wish it was lower. I wish it was more in line with Animal Kingdom Lodge because I would stay there more. But it's not, and so I don't, because I would rather spend, 10 points. I just spent 10 points to stay at a standard resort view studio at Boardwalk. And that was, location for me is amazing and the vibes are amazing. So, and there's nostalgia. I mean, I do think that for me, part of it is like Riviera also suffers a little bit from the fact that it was it opened right before the pandemic. And so it kind of like, I feel like it lost momentum. Like it just seemed like something that lacked excitement for me. And I don't really have any nostalgia around it. And there was not a big buildup for me about it opening. And then, COVID happened and it just kind of never really, really never came onto my radar in a very real way. But I mean, that being said, the people that are buying it now, they love it. And I'm happy for them because I think that the beauty of DVC is that we can stay someplace where we love and that we think that it's, that feels like home for us.
Yeah.
I'm curious to revisit this conversation after Lakeshore Lodge opens, just because I want to see the comparison and points charts and see if everybody has the same. I know it's a different vibe. I know it's in a different area, but I wonder how it's going to compare.
Well, if the cabins are part of it and I can get a cabin for 15 points and sleeping 6 people, then I'm going to feel pretty good about it.
Well, for sure.
Yep.
But if it's a separate resort and the points are going to be, if it's even worse than Riviera, maybe it's going to be 24, 25 points for just a studio. I'm just curious to see if people are still going to be so on board with getting it.
It's not going to be higher than the Island Tower. I feel confident about that.
I don't know how it can be.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, my opinion remains the same. Amy talked about nostalgia. I've visited the hotel. I have loved hotels and ended up staying in hotels because of a short visit there. Riviera did not evoke any wonderful feelings of comfort and nostalgia for me. No matter how many times I visit there and I try to like it and enjoy it and appreciate it, it just does nothing for me. There is no amount of anything that is suddenly going to make that resort move higher in my list. It just, when we are looking for reservations across property, it does not even spark on my radar. And that's just a personal feeling. It does nothing for me. Even the campgrounds I can make fun of, but I can see benefits to it. And we've talked about that. And it evokes some rough feelings for me. There's some things I look at the campground and I go, absolutely not. Riviera does, it whelms me. It doesn't overwhelm me. It just whelms me. It does not even factor into my thought process. It's nothing to me. And I there's no way I think I'll be able to fix that.
Speaking of the cabins, did anybody see the social media post? It was either Disney World or Disney Parks. Like one of their accounts put out a post it was a video of like 3 women who did a girls trip at the cabins, and like they, documented what they did. And it was an adorable post, and it was like made me even more excited at the potential of that being part of Lakeshore Lodge, because it just looked so fun, so many things to do, so cozy, so cute, just great vibes. And also like nostalgia. There is nostalgia at Fort Wilderness.
I didn't see that video. I'm going to have to look at that.
I can't tell how many times we've beaten this dead horse. Anything else? And it won't be the last, I can assure you. This is like our favorite pastime.
Well, I felt like a little bit like the conversation might have gone a little bit differently because it was starting on a more upbeat note,
I
prompted
knew
by.
where I was going with it. There was no doubt in my mind.
I tried. I just so everybody knows, I tried. I actually think I was very positive.
You were.
Thank you.
There's certain things about Riviera I like. I'm with Amy. I just can't see myself spending those points to stay there for a resort that has nothing I want.
Well, we said that we would never hesitate to buy points at Riviera.
If it was a deal, just because I own there doesn't mean I have to stay there.
And that's exactly what we said. Just because you own there doesn't mean that's where you have to stay. But, I mean, I wouldn't be mad about staying there.
No, if it was a good deal and you couldn't pass it up and it was like cheap.
But, I mean, just even staying at Riviera, like we talked about those tower studios, depending on your situation, if you can grab a tower studio, and our situation is perfect for that, a random, day of the week, maybe in September, like Phil said, you get it for 10 points. That's perfect. I would never complain about that.
All right. I could reply, but it would just be rehashing my same old negative complaints, so I won't. All right, we thank everybody for listening. For those of you that are Riviera fans, we thank you for listening this very last time. We hope to see you back in a couple of years when your resentment has passed. Even so, if you could run over to Apple Podcast, give us a like, 5-star review, we'd still very much appreciate it. Amy?
Emily, take Phil to Riviera.
And feel free to join the Facebook group and tell us why you love Riviera. You can join us at DVC Clubhouse. We're also on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And until next time, we'll DVC you real soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
See you guys.
And so our journey comes to an end.
Oh, no, please, can't we go back to page 1 and do it all over again?
We started this thing together, and that's how we'll finish it.
Because that, my friends, is where the magic lives.
Happily ever